The cold Chicago night pressed against the walls of Sandy's diner, its hum of activity silenced by the stillness outside. But there, in the shadows of the back alley, something caught the eye of one unexpected observer. Standing frozen, Nick Harrison, CEO of one of the largest restaurant chains in the country, stared at a sight that would shake him to his core. It was Elena, the waitress he had seen serving customers only hours earlier. Now, she was curled up on a piece of cardboard, her thin coat the only thing protecting her from the biting cold. Her shoes were tucked neatly beneath her head like a pillow, her posture small, defeated. Nick blinked, unsure if he was seeing things. Was she drunk? Homeless? The last person he expected to find in such a vulnerable state. But this sight, this moment, would change everything he thought he knew. Where are you watching from today? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories like this. Back in the warmth of his penthouse, Nick couldn't shake the image of Elena from his mind. The luxury around him seemed irrelevant now. His mattress, his silk sheets, none of it mattered when his thoughts kept returning to that dark alley and the girl he had seen there. The world of corporate deals, billion-dollar acquisitions, and backroom politics had never affected him this way. But this quiet, smart woman, sitting on cardboard with nothing but a book in her hands, haunted him. Elena wasn't just anyone. Her fingers, delicate and refined, clutched a well-worn book about algorithmic systems. It wasn't a random book. It was a glimpse into her past, into a life she had left behind. The sadness in her eyes, the exhaustion in her face, all told a story that Nick couldn't ignore. The next morning, as the city woke, Nick sat at his desk overlooking the skyline. But he wasn't watching the view. His laptop was open, scanning through company records, but his mind kept drifting back to Elena. Her name was listed in the employee database of Sandy's diner, but that wasn't what stopped him. It was the file he opened next, her educational records. Elena Moore, MIT graduate, class of 2019, with a degree in computer science and artificial intelligence. He sat back, stunned. This wasn't just a bright mind. This was a prodigy, someone who had been on the verge of revolutionizing technology. Yet here she was, folding napkins in a small diner, far removed from the world she had once been poised to change. How had she ended up here? And why? He couldn't get the thought out of his head. That afternoon, he found himself walking into Sandy's diner. His clothes were more casual than usual, jeans, a worn brown coat, but he still carried the weight of his title. Elena was there, refilling salt shakers and checking coffee pots. She moved with purpose, but there was something in her eyes, a quiet resignation, as if she was trying to be invisible. She didn't make eye contact with anyone for too long, her posture a reflection of her attempt to remain unnoticed. When she reached his table, she gave him a polite nod. "Good afternoon. Your usual?" He smiled, caught off guard by her politeness, but he shook his head. "Surprise me." Her lips curved into a small, cautious smile. "That's risky in this place." He chuckled softly. "I like a bit of risk." As she turned to head to the kitchen, Nick watched her, his curiosity piqued. The way she handled trays, adjusted the thermostat near the door, and remembered who had allergies without writing it down. All of it screamed intelligence, a mind too sharp for the mundane tasks she performed. This wasn't just someone who had fallen into this life. This was someone who had been forced into hiding, someone whose potential had been buried under the weight of life's tragedies. The next few days passed with Nick returning to the diner, never mentioning what he had seen. Instead, he asked her simple questions. "What's your favorite book?" She shrugged. "Don't read much fiction anymore." He pressed further. "You used to, right?" But she didn't answer, only smiled that sad, quiet smile before walking away. Nick knew there was more, but he also knew better than to push too hard. Some wounds were deep enough to remain hidden. Then, on the fifth night, Chicago's wind turned bitter. Nick stayed at the diner long after the last customer had left. He paid his bill in cash, left a generous tip, and stepped outside through the back exit. There, sitting under a crooked awning, was Elena again, wrapped in a threadbare coat, her fingers wrapped around a dented metal thermos. The same book balanced on her knees. Her breath came out in soft puffs, and her lips were pale from the cold. Nick approached her slowly, careful not to startle her. "You shouldn't be out here." She looked up, unsurprised. "I'm not hurting anyone." "That's not the point." His voice softened. "I'm fine." "You're not," he replied gently. "I'm fine." "You're not." She glanced away, her words soft and dismissive. "I'm not your problem." "You're exactly my problem," Nick said, crouching beside her. She let out a tired breath, arms wrapped tightly around herself. "Why?" "Because I own this place," he said, his voice low. "And I saw someone brilliant sleeping next to a dumpster. That doesn't sit right with me." Elena blinked, her eyes narrowing. "You own the diner and a few other things. You're a CEO, among other sins." She gave him a long look. "So what now? You give me some money, maybe a hotel key, and feel good about yourself?" Nick shook his head slowly. "No, I give you something far more dangerous." "What's that?" "A chance." The word hung in the air between them, sharp and unexpected. Elena laughed bitterly. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you were top of your class at MIT, Nick said, his voice steady. "I know your work helped push memory-efficient AI forward. I know you vanished from every professional record 3 years ago. And I know pain when I see it." Elena stiffened, her arms wrapping tighter around herself. "My parents died in a car crash. Drunk driver just a few miles from home. They were everything I had. I dropped everything. Work, friends, tried to keep their house. But the grief fogged everything. I stopped showing up to interviews. Then the house caught fire from an old radiator. I lost everything in one night." Nick swallowed hard, his chest tightening. "No one came looking?" "They did," she whispered. "For a while. Then the texts stopped. The emails slowed. Eventually everyone moved on. I didn't blame them. I wasn't me anymore." "You are," he said softly. "You just forgot." Her eyes met his, and for the first time Nick saw a flicker of the person she once was, smart, fierce, and alive. "I'm not taking charity," she said firmly. "Good," Nick said, standing up, "because I'm not offering it." He handed her a key. "Temporary apartment, company owned. You can stay as long as you like, no obligations. And if you ever want to step back into the world you left, I've got a place for you in our innovation lab. No pressure." She took the key without a word. "Why me?" "Because you're still here," he said quietly. "That means something." She didn't thank him, but the way she clutched the key told him everything. In the days that followed, Nick kept his distance. He had his assistant drop off fresh clothes, groceries, and a laptop for her. No instructions, just tools. No one at the office knew, not even his trusted assistant, Claire. Then, one Wednesday morning, the lab door opened. Elena walked in, hair pulled back, jeans clean, shoulders straight. She carried the same worn algorithm book under her arm. "I want to work," she said simply. Nick smiled. "Let's get started." Within a month, Elena was building something remarkable,
a lightweight AI framework for server efficiency that could save the company millions. She worked under a pseudonym, her identity kept secret. But not everyone in the lab was happy with the unknown engineer rising so quickly. Whispers started, questions formed, and Nick knew the storm hadn't passed. It had only just begun. By the third week, murmurs filled the air. Junior developers started questioning her methods, wondering where she came from. But Elena never faltered. Then, one day, Gavin, a senior engineer, confronted her. "You've been touching core logic," he said casually. "Where did you come from?" Elena met his gaze, unshaken. "Does it matter?" Gavin blinked, thrown off. "We like to know who's on the team." "I'm on the team. At least, I'm trying to be." The whispers grew louder. An anonymous message to HR questioned her onboarding, sparking a meeting with Nick. Elena sat in his office, her gaze calm, but her hands trembling. "I assume this is about the complaint?" she said, her voice steady but strained. Nick nodded. "There are rules, some useful, some built to protect fragile egos." "I told you this wouldn't last," Elena said softly. "What I'm thinking is, maybe it's time they knew who you really are." "No," Elena said quickly. "The moment they know, it changes. I'll stop being a developer. I'll become a story. The girl who fell from MIT to Sandy's diner. The charity case." Nick leaned forward. "I didn't bring you here to make you a mascot. I brought you because your mind is extraordinary." She took a deep breath. "But I need you to trust me. When they know, they'll never see me as just Elena again." Nick nodded slowly, understanding. "But don't give it away to silence either." Over the next week, Elena began to mentor. She offered code reviews, helped interns debug systems, and slowly the tide began to turn. Then the lab held a monthly meeting. It was routine, updates, briefings, team acknowledgments, but Nick decided to break tradition. "I want to recognize someone today, someone who's quietly shaped the heart of this project. Her name is Elena Moore." The room fell silent. Most of you don't know her story, but you know her code. She's written more than a third of our processing engine. She's solved critical bugs in hours that others struggled with for weeks. And what matters most is this: she didn't give up. The room erupted in applause, and Elena stood slowly. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "I didn't come here to be seen, but I'm grateful." Later, at a quiet cafe, Elena and Nick shared a coffee. "You were magnificent," Nick said, his voice warm. "I didn't throw up, so I'll take that," Elena smiled. "I mean it," Nick said quietly. "You've done something rare, not just with the system, but with how you came back." Elena's smile faded slightly. "I kept waiting for someone to fix me, but I think the truth is, I just needed someone to believe I wasn't broken." Nick nodded slowly. "We all do."